My name is Elijah Winters, and I've survived the past 14 months in a Billionaires bunker. Alone, completely alone for the last 6 months. If anyone is listening to this broadcast, if there's anyone left out there who still has power in a radio, I need you to know what happened here. I need to tell this story before I lose my mind completely. Before the isolation drives me to do something I can't take back. I'm broadcasting on multiple frequencies, hoping someone, anyone can hear me. I don't even know if there are survivors out there anymore. For all I know, I'm the last living human being on Earth, but I have to believe there's someone listening. I have to believe I'm not alone in the universe. So I'm going to tell you everything. How the world ended. How I ended up here. How 13 other people died in this bunker. And how I'm still alive when everyone else is gone. Let me start at the beginning, 14 months ago. Before the outbreak, before the infected, before everything went to hell. I was a cybersecurity specialist living in Portland, Oregon. 32 years old, decent job, small apartment, no family to speak of. My parents died in a car accident when I was in college. No siblings. A few friends, but nobody close. I was the kind of person who could disappear and maybe 3 people would notice. That probably saved my life, actually. No attachments meant I could make hard decisions without worrying about anyone else. But I'm getting ahead of myself. 14 months ago, I was working for a private security firm. We did penetration testing, vulnerability assessments, that kind of thing. One of our biggest clients was a guy named Victor Harrington, tech billionaire, made his fortune in artificial intelligence and data mining, sold his company for $8 billion, and retired at 45 to pursue, as he put it, more interesting projects. I'd met Victor a few times during security audits. He was brilliant but strange. Paranoid, even by my standards. He had multiple layers of security on everything. He talked constantly about existential risks, climate change, pandemics, AI gone wrong, all of it. I thought he was just another rich guy with too much time and money, playing at being a doomsday prepper. Turns out he wasn't paranoid enough. None of us were. When the outbreak started, it happened faster than anyone predicted. You probably remember if you survived this long. The first cases were in Central Africa, some kind of virus. People getting sick, becoming violent, attacking others. The media covered it like they cover everything, with a mix of sensationalism and denial. It's far away. It won't affect us. Our medical system can handle it. All the usual reassurances. Then it spread. Kenya, Ethiopia, Egypt. Then it jumped to Europe. Spain, Italy, France. Then Asia, China, India, Japan. And then it was everywhere. I remember watching the news as the infection reached the United States. First case in New York, then Boston, Miami, Los Angeles, Seattle. Within a week, every major city had cases. And these weren't normal sick people. The infected, they changed. Their eyes clouded over, going white or gray. Their skin took on this corpse-like pallor. They stopped responding to pain. They stopped being human in any meaningful way. They became predators, single-minded, violent, hungry. They attacked people, bit them, tore them apart, and everyone who got bitten or scratched they turned to, usually within hours, sometimes faster. The hospitals were overwhelmed immediately. The government tried to establish quarantine zones, but it was useless. You can't quarantine something that spreads this fast. You can't contain millions of infected people when your entire infrastructure is collapsing. I was in my apartment in Portland when I got the call. It was Victor Harrington calling me directly. I didn't even know he had my personal number. Elijah, it's Victor Harrington. I assume you're watching the news. This outbreak is not going to be contained. The government is lying about their ability to control it. I have a secure facility in the Cascade Mountains. It's stocked, powered, and safe. I'm offering you a place there. You have 24 hours to reach these coordinates. After that, we're sealing the facility and no one else gets in. Pack light. Bring only essentials. Don't tell anyone where you're going. The more people who know about this facility, the less secure it becomes. Then he gave me GPS coordinates and hung up. I sat there for maybe 10 seconds, processing. Part of me thought this was insane. Victor was just a paranoid billionaire overreacting. But another part of me, the part that had been watching the news and seeing the same patterns I'd seen in cybersecurity breaches, that part knew he was right. This was cascading failure. This was system collapse. And when systems collapse, you don't try to fix them. You get out. I grabbed a backpack and started packing. I threw in clothes, a few personal items, my laptop, external hard drives with my data. I had a hunting knife my father had given me. I packed that. I had a first aid kit. I packed that. I cleaned out my kitchen of anything non-perishable. Canned food, protein bars, water bottles. I filled my backpack and a duffel bag. Then I grabbed my car keys and left my apartment for the last time. The streets of Portland were chaos. This was maybe 10 days into the outbreak in the US, and society was already breaking down. I saw cars abandoned in the middle of the road. Stores with smashed windows, fires burning, people running. And I saw the infected. They were unmistakable. The way they moved, shambling but purposeful. The way they looked, dead but animated. I saw one of them attacking a man outside a grocery store. The man was screaming, trying to fight it off, but the infected just kept coming. It bit into his neck, and the man's screaming turned to gurgling. I didn't stop. I couldn't help him. I got in my car and started driving. The GPS coordinates Victor had given me were about 90 miles east, up into the Cascade Mountains. Normally that would be maybe 2 hours. It took me 8. The highways were parking lots. Everyone was trying to flee the city at the same time. I had to take back roads, rural routes, anything that was still moving. I passed through small towns that were already falling apart. I saw a police station surrounded by infected. I saw a family barricaded in a gas station, the windows covered with boards, the infected pounding on the doors. I saw a military convoy that had been overrun, soldiers dead in the street, their weapons scattered. This was everywhere. This wasn't just Portland. This was every city, every town, everywhere. The infection was spreading faster than people could run from it. I had to drive through crowds of infected at points. I just aimed my car and went, trying not to think about what I was hitting, trying not to think about the sounds. I made it to the mountains. The coordinates led me deep into national forest land, off the main roads entirely. I followed a logging road for miles, wondering if I'd gotten lost, if this was some kind of mistake. Then I saw it. A gate, heavy steel, topped with razor wire, with cameras and sensors visible. As I approached, my phone buzzed with a text message. The cell networks were mostly down by this point, but somehow this message got through. Drive to the gate. Wait for verification. I pulled up to the gate and stopped. I could see more cameras now, and what looked like automated weapon systems mounted on posts. This was serious security. After maybe 30 seconds, a speaker near the gate crackled to life. Elijah Winters, exit your vehicle. Leave all weapons visible on the ground. Stand with your hands raised. A voice, male, professional. I did as instructed. I put my hunting knife on the ground and raised my hands. Have you been bitten or scratched by an infected individual? No. Have you been exposed to blood or bodily fluids from an infected individual? No. Are you experiencing any symptoms? Fever, nausea, aggression, confusion? No, I'm fine. Just exhausted. There was a pause. Then, the gate will open. Drive through. Follow the road to the facility entrance. You will be screened before entry. Any sign of infection, and you will be terminated. Do you understand? I understand. The gate opened. I got back in my car and drove through. The gate closed behind me with a solid mechanical thunk. That sound felt final somehow, like I'd just left the world behind and entered somewhere else, somewhere separate from the dying world outside. I followed the road for about a mile. It curved down into a valley between two mountains, heavily forested on all sides. Then I saw the facility, or rather, I saw what looked like a modern house built into the mountainside. Large windows, contemporary architecture, all glass and steel. But as I got closer, I realized the house was just an entrance. The real facility was underground, built into the mountain itself. There were several vehicles parked near the entrance, expensive cars, a Range Rover, a Tesla, a Mercedes G-Wagon, a Porsche Cayenne. I parked my beat-up Honda Civic next to them. The contrast was almost funny. The door to the house opened and two men emerged, both wearing tactical gear, both carrying rifles. One of them approached my car. Mr. Winters, I'm going to need you to step out of the vehicle and submit to a medical screening. I got out of the car. I understand. What do you need me to do? The man gestured toward the house. Inside, we have a decontamination and screening area. Leave your belongings in the car. They'll be screened separately and brought to you if they're clear. I followed them into the house. The interior was beautiful. Hardwood floors, expensive furniture, art on the walls. But we didn't stop. We went through a door that led to a stairwell heading down. We descended maybe 5 stories underground. The stairwell opened into what looked like a medical facility. Sterile white walls, examination tables, equipment I didn't recognize. Strip down completely. Place all clothing in the bin. I hesitated for maybe a second, then complied. When you're trying to survive, modesty doesn't matter anymore. 2 people in full hazmat suits entered the room. They examined me thoroughly, every inch of my body. They were looking for bite marks, scratches, any sign of infection. They took blood samples. They checked my temperature, my blood pressure, my pupils. They asked questions. Had I been in direct contact with infected? Had I consumed any food or water that might have been contaminated? Was I experiencing any unusual symptoms? I answered everything truthfully. They drew more blood, ran some kind of rapid test I didn't understand. After about an hour, one of them spoke. "You're clear. No signs of infection. You can shower and dress." They provided me with clean clothes. Simple stuff, black pants and a gray shirt. After I was dressed, they led me through another door, and suddenly the environment changed dramatically. I emerged into what looked like a luxury hotel lobby. No, that's not quite right. It looked like someone had taken a luxury hotel lobby and somehow improved it. The space was huge, maybe 40 feet high, with real trees growing inside. The ceiling had LED panels that mimicked natural sunlight. The floor was polished stone. There were comfortable seating areas, bookshelves, art on the walls. Real art. I recognized a Rothko. The air smelled clean, almost too clean, like they were filtering out every impurity, and it was quiet. After days of chaos and screaming and moaning from the infected, the silence was almost shocking. A woman approached me. She was in her 40s, well-dressed in business casual attire, with the kind of composed demeanor that suggested nothing could rattle her. "Mr. Winters, welcome to Sanctuary. I'm Margaret Whitmore, Mr. Harrington's executive assistant. Victor has asked me to orient you to the facility and explain the protocols we'll be following." She led me through the facility, and I couldn't believe what I was seeing. This wasn't a bunker in the traditional sense. This was an underground mansion. The facility had been built into the mountain across multiple levels. There were residential quarters with actual bedrooms, each with private bathrooms. There was a commercial-grade kitchen, a dining room with a table that could seat 20 people, a medical bay that looked more advanced than most hospitals I'd been in, a gym with equipment that was nicer than any gym I'd ever joined, a library with thousands of books, entertainment rooms with large-screen TVS and gaming systems, a workshop with tools and equipment, a control center with monitors showing camera feeds from around the facility and the surrounding area, and then there were the systems. Margaret explained it all as we walked. Sanctuary was built over 5 years at a cost of approximately $80 million. Victor designed it to be completely self-sufficient for up to 15 years. We have geothermal power generation with triple redundancy. Water comes from an underground aquifer with full filtration, purification, and recycling systems. We can process and recycle 98% of our water. Food production comes from a hydroponic garden system on the lower level that can provide fresh vegetables, fruits, and herbs. We have 5 years of freeze-dried and canned food supplies as backup. The facility is designed to support 20 people comfortably for 15 years, or 30 people for 10 years if necessary. Currently, we have 14 people in residence. The facility is fully stocked with medical supplies, tools, equipment, entertainment, everything needed for long-term survival. She showed me to my quarters, a private room about 12 by 15 feet. There was a bed, a desk, a chair, a closet, and a door leading to a small bathroom with a shower. The room was nicer than my apartment had been. "This is your space. You're free to personalize it as you wish. There's clothing in various sizes in the closet. Meals are served communally in the dining room at 7 a.m., noon, and 6 p.m. Victor requires attendance at meals. He believes maintaining social bonds and normal routines is essential for mental health during extended isolation. There will be duty rotations for facility maintenance. Your primary responsibility will be maintaining our network security and computer systems. You'll be briefed on your specific duties tomorrow. For now, rest. I'm sure you've had an exhausting journey. She left me alone. I sat on the bed. It was surreal. 14 months ago, sitting in that room for the first time, I didn't fully understand what had happened. I'd escaped the apocalypse. I was safe in an underground facility with food, water, and power while the world above died. I should have felt grateful. I should have felt lucky. And I did, in a way. But I also felt something else. Guilt, maybe. Or survivor's guilt. Millions of people were dying up there. People who didn't have the money or the connections to build or access a place like this. They were dying while I sat in comfort. It didn't seem fair. But life isn't fair. I knew that. Survival isn't fair. I pushed those thoughts away and tried to focus on the present. I was alive. That's what mattered. I must have fallen asleep because I woke up to a knock on my door. Yeah? A voice from the other side. Mr. Winters, dinner is being served in 10 minutes. Your attendance is expected. I got up, splashed water on my face, and headed out. I followed the signs to the dining room. When I entered, I saw the other survivors for the first time as a group. They were seated around a large wooden table. At the head of the table sat Victor Harrington. He was in his late 40s, fit, with graying hair and intense blue eyes. He had the kind of presence that dominated a room. Next to him was a woman who I assumed was his wife, elegant and poised. There were others around the table, young and old, men and women, all looking like they'd been through hell but were now in shock at their surroundings. Victor stood when he saw me. Elijah, welcome. I'm glad you made it. Please sit. He gestured to an empty chair. I sat down. Everyone, this is Elijah Winters. He's one of the cybersecurity specialists I mentioned. Elijah will be responsible for maintaining our network security and ensuring our systems remain protected. Elijah, let me introduce everyone. He went around the table. This is my wife, Victoria. My daughter, Natalie. She's 19. My son, Christopher. He's 16. This is Margaret, who you've met. This is Thomas Grant, our head of security. Former Navy SEAL. Dr. Rachel Morrison, our physician. She specializes in infectious diseases, which seemed prudent given current circumstances. A grim laugh from a few people. We have Marcus Chen, our other cybersecurity specialist. You'll be working closely with him. Dr. Yuki Tanaka, our botanist and hydroponics expert. James Okoye and Carlos Martinez, our mechanical engineers. They maintain the facility's systems. Robert Castellano, our communications specialist. And finally, we have two others who will be joining us shortly. They're finishing their decontamination screening. I looked around the table. 13 people. 14 including me. This was our entire world now. These strangers were my community, my tribe, my family by necessity. Victor raised a glass. I want to welcome all of you to Sanctuary. I know many of you have lost loved ones. I know the journey here was harrowing for all of us. But you're here. You're safe. And together, we're going to survive this. We have everything we need to wait out this crisis. The infected will eventually die off. They need food, and once they've consumed all available prey, they'll starve. Experts predicted that process would take 6 to 18 months. He took a sip of his wine. Real wine, I noticed. Not synthesized or rationed. First, we maintain structure and routine. That means regular meal times, regular work schedules, regular sleep schedules. Structure prevents psychological breakdown. Second, everyone contributes. Everyone has a role. Everyone does their part. There are no passengers here. Third, we respect each other's space and privacy. This facility is large but not infinite. We need to be considerate of one another. Fourth, disputes will be resolved through discussion and consensus. I'm not a dictator. We're a community. We make decisions together. Fifth, and this is non-negotiable, no one leaves the facility for any reason without group consensus. Opening those doors puts everyone at risk. We stay sealed until it's safe. Does everyone understand and agree? There were nods and murmurs of agreement around the table. What choice did we have? These were reasonable rules, and Victor was right about needing structure. I'd studied enough about human psychology to know that people need routine and purpose to maintain mental health. Without it, people break down. Good, Victor continued. Now let's eat. Andre, our chef, has prepared something special for our first meal together. Right on cue, a man emerged from the kitchen carrying plates. Andre was middle-aged, French, with the bearing of someone who'd spent his life in fine dining. The food was incredible. Real food, well prepared, beautifully presented. It felt obscene to eat like this while the world died, but I ate anyway. Survival requires calories. Survival requires keeping your strength up. Over dinner, people started talking, sharing their stories of how they'd gotten here. Victoria Harrington had been in New York when the outbreak started. She'd flown back on a private jet, one of the last flights before all air traffic was grounded. Natalie and Christopher had been at boarding school. Victor had sent Thomas and a security team to extract them. Dr. Morrison had been working at a hospital in Seattle when Victor contacted her. She'd seen the infection firsthand, seen how it spread, and she'd left immediately. Marcus Chen had a similar story to mine. Cybersecurity specialist, got the call, made it through hell to get here. The engineers had been working for Victor already, maintaining his various properties. They'd been nearby when the outbreak started. Dr. Tanaka had been brought in during the facility's construction to design the hydroponic system. She was already here when everything went to hell. The two who were still in decontamination arrived about halfway through the meal. A young woman, maybe mid-20s, and an older man, probably in his 60s. Victor introduced them. This is Jennifer Abbott, a renewable energy engineer. And this is Dr. Howard Preston, a microbiologist. They'll be valuable additions to our community. Jennifer looked shell-shocked. Dr. Preston looked grim. Both had clearly seen terrible things getting here. We finished the meal and Victor suggested we all get some rest. It had been a long day for everyone. People dispersed to their quarters. I went back to my room and lay on the bed, staring at the ceiling. I tried to process everything that had happened. A week ago, I'd been in my apartment living a normal life. Now I was underground in a billionaire's bunker while the world ended. It didn't feel real. It felt like a dream, or a nightmare. I eventually fell asleep, exhausted beyond measure. The next morning, I woke to an alarm at 6 a.m. The facility had a PA system, and a pleasant recorded voice announced, "Good morning, sanctuary residents. The time is 6 a.m. Breakfast will be served at 7 a.m. in the dining room. Today's work assignments will be posted after breakfast. Have a productive day." It was surreal, like being in a hotel that was pretending everything was normal. I showered, dressed, and headed to the dining room. Most of the others were already there. Andre had prepared breakfast: eggs, bacon, toast, fruit, coffee. Real coffee, not instant. The small luxuries matter when everything else is gone. After breakfast, Victor stood up and addressed the group. "I want to explain how we're going to organize our work here. Everyone has a primary role based on their expertise, but everyone will also cross-train on other duties. If something happens to one person, others need to be able to fill that role." He pulled up a screen on the wall, displaying a schedule. "Elijah and Marcus, you'll be responsible for all computer systems, networks, and digital security. That includes monitoring our external sensors, maintaining our databases, and ensuring no vulnerabilities. You'll work together in the control room. Dr. Tanaka, you're obviously managing hydroponics, but I want Carlos and James to learn from you so they can assist if needed. Dr. Morrison, you're our primary physician, but I want everyone to receive basic medical training from you. In an emergency, anyone might need to provide care. Thomas, security is your domain. You'll maintain our weapons, monitor perimeter sensors, and train everyone in basic self-defense and firearms. Even in here, we need to be prepared." He went through everyone's assignments. It was thorough and well organized. Victor had clearly thought this through extensively. My first day of work was spent in the control room with Marcus. He was a few years younger than me, intense and focused. The control room was impressive. Multiple monitors showing camera feeds from around the facility and outside. Servers humming quietly. The whole network was isolated from the outside internet for security, but we still had satellite uplinks for monitoring news and communications. Marcus showed me the systems. "We've got redundancy on everything. If one server fails, another takes over automatically. Our power systems have triple backups. Geothermal is primary, we have diesel generators as secondary, and we have solar panels and battery banks as tertiary. Water systems have similar redundancy. Air filtration and recycling has backups." Victor was paranoid about single points of failure. "Paranoid seems like the wrong word now," I said. He was right. Marcus nodded. Yeah, he was right about everything. We spent the day going through the systems, checking for any issues, making sure everything was running optimally. In the afternoon, we checked the external camera feeds. What we saw was sobering. The gate we'd entered through was surrounded by infected. Dozens of them, maybe hundreds. They were drawn to the fence, probably because our vehicles had left scent trails leading here. They pounded on the gate, clawed at it, moaned. The fence was holding, but the sight was horrific. These had been people. Now they were just mindless hunger. "We're seeing more of them every day," Marcus said quietly. "They're spreading through the forest, following any trace of human activity." The gate and fence are rated to hold thousands of pounds of pressure. They won't get through, but it's only going to get worse out there before it gets better. Dinner that night was somber. Victor wanted to address the group about what we'd seen. "I want everyone to understand our situation clearly. The infection is spreading faster than anyone predicted. The government has collapsed. There is no help coming. We are on our own. This facility is designed to keep us safe, and it will. But we need to accept that we might be here for longer than the 6 to 18 months I originally predicted. We might be here for years. That's why maintaining our mental health and our community bonds is so important. We're going to implement some additional structure. We'll have communal activities in the evenings. Games, movies, discussions, whatever helps us stay connected. We'll celebrate birthdays and holidays. We'll maintain our humanity even though the world outside has lost its humanity." The first few weeks in Sanctuary fell into a routine. We worked in the mornings on our assigned duties. We had lunch together. We worked more in the afternoons. We had dinner together. Evenings were for relaxation and socialization. Victor was insistent on the socialization part. He organized game nights, movie nights, discussions about books or philosophy or whatever. He was trying to keep everyone sane and connected, and for a while it worked. People adapted. The horror of what was happening outside faded into the background as we focused on the daily routines inside. It was almost possible to forget that the world had ended. Almost. But there were reminders. The camera feeds showing more and more infected gathering around our perimeter. The occasional news broadcasts we could pick up from surviving military or government stations. Each broadcast more desperate than the last until eventually they all went silent. About 3 months in, we had our first major crisis. Dr. Preston, the microbiologist, got sick. Not infected, just regular sick. A fever, cough, weakness. In the old world, it would have been nothing. A cold or flu. Rest, fluids, you'd be fine in a few days. But in Sanctuary, any illness caused panic. What if it was something serious? What if it spread? Dr. Morrison examined him and determined it was just a viral infection, not related to the zombie infection. But she put him in quarantine anyway, in a separate area of the medical bay. The rest of us were on edge. People avoided each other. Everyone was watching everyone else for signs of illness. It was our first real taste of how fragile our situation was. Dr. Preston recovered after about a week, but the anxiety lingered. The second crisis came about 4 months in, and it was worse. Christopher, Victor's 16-year-old son, tried to leave. We found out later that he'd been planning it for weeks. He'd been watching the camera feeds, studying the patterns of the infected, looking for gaps. He thought he could slip out, get to one of the vehicles, and drive away. He wanted to look for his girlfriend. She'd been in Portland when everything collapsed. He was convinced she was alive, waiting for him. In the middle of the night, he tried to access one of the emergency exits. Fortunately, Thomas had the security system set up to alert him if any door was accessed outside normal parameters. Thomas caught Christopher before he could open the outer door. If that door had opened, if the infected had detected it, they might have swarmed. They might have found a way in. It could have killed us all. Victor was furious. He called an emergency meeting. Christopher sat there, defiant and crying. She could be alive. We don't know. We should be looking for other survivors. Victor's voice was cold. Christopher, your girlfriend is dead. Everyone in Portland is dead. Opening that door would have put all of us at risk. You could have killed us all for a fantasy. You don't know she's dead. Son, the odds of her surviving are effectively 0. I understand you're in pain. I understand you want to help her. But she's gone, and we have to accept reality and move forward. The argument went on for over an hour. Eventually, Victor made a new rule. The exits were now locked with codes that only he, Thomas, and Margaret knew. No one else could open them. It was for our own safety. Most people agreed. A few, including me, Felt uncomfortable with the idea that we were essentially prisoners. But what choice did we have? 6 months in, the food from the hydroponics was supplementing our diet significantly. Dr. Tanaka had the system producing lettuce, tomatoes, peppers, herbs, even some strawberries. It wasn't enough to sustain us entirely, but it meant we were using our stockpiled food more slowly, extending our timeline. The routine was well established. People had adapted. Relationships were forming. Marcus and Jennifer, the renewable energy engineer, had gotten close. Robert and Dr. Tanaka were spending a lot of time together. Even in the apocalypse, humans need connection, need intimacy. It was natural. Victor encouraged it, actually. He said that forming bonds made the community stronger, made people more invested in survival. Then, 8 months in, everything fell apart. It started with Thomas. Our head of security had been acting strange for a few days. Irritable, aggressive, not sleeping well. We all just figured it was stress. Living underground for months takes a toll on everyone. But then, one morning, he didn't show up for breakfast. Margaret went to check on him and found him in his room, unresponsive. We brought Dr. Morrison immediately. She examined him and her face went pale. He has a fever. And look at his eyes. His eyes were starting to cloud over. The same cloudiness we'd seen in the infected. That's not possible, Victor said. He wasn't bitten. He hasn't been outside. There's no way he could be infected. Dr. Morrison was already backing away. I don't know how, but he's showing symptoms. We need to quarantine him immediately. We moved Thomas to the medical bay and sealed it off. Dr. Morrison suited up in full protective gear and examined him more closely. She found it. A small scratch on his arm, maybe a week old, infected and swollen. Where did this come from? She asked when Thomas had a moment of lucidity. I don't know, he mumbled. Cut myself on something in the workshop. Didn't think anything of it, but that didn't make sense. You couldn't get the zombie infection from a random cut. You had to be exposed to the virus. Unless Dr. Morrison had a hypothesis. What if the virus is more resilient than we thought? What if it can survive on surfaces longer than predicted? If Thomas touched something that had trace amounts of infected blood or saliva, and then touched an open wound, he could have been exposed. The implications were terrifying. If the virus could survive on surfaces, then anything we'd brought into the facility in those first days could be contaminated. Our clothing, our belongings, our vehicles. We thought we'd been safe because we decontaminated everything. But what if it wasn't enough? Thomas deteriorated rapidly. Within 24 hours, he was fully turned. Clouded eyes, aggressive, trying to attack anyone who came near. Dr. Morrison kept him sedated and restrained, but she couldn't cure him. There was no cure. Victor called another emergency meeting. We have an infected person inside Sanctuary. This is the worst-case scenario. We have two options. We euthanize Thomas before he becomes a threat, or we keep him sedated and restrained indefinitely. I want everyone's input. The debate was heated. Some people, including Thomas's friends, argued we should keep him alive. Maybe a cure would be developed. Maybe he could recover. Others, including me, argued that keeping an infected person in the facility was too dangerous. If he got loose, he could infect all of us. We'd all die. Victor listened to everyone, then made a decision. We'll keep Thomas sedated for now. Dr. Morrison will monitor him constantly. But if there's any sign that he's becoming a danger, any sign of restraints failing or sedation wearing off, we terminate immediately. Everyone agreed? Most people nodded. A few looked uncomfortable but didn't object. For 2 weeks, Thomas remained sedated in the medical bay. Dr. Morrison took samples, studied the virus, tried to understand what had happened. Then she found something else, something worse. I've been running tests, she announced at dinner one night. The virus has a longer incubation period than we thought. Thomas was infected at least a week before he showed symptoms. During that week, he was in contact with all of us. He shared meals with us. He touched surfaces that we touched. If the virus is transmissible during incubation before symptoms appear, then any of us could be infected right now. Panic, immediate panic. People started accusing each other. Someone must have brought the contamination in. Someone must have been careless. Victor tried to restore order. Everyone calmed down. Dr. Morrison, can you test us? Can you determine if any of us are infected? She nodded. I can draw blood and test for antibodies. It will take a few hours per person, but yes, I can test everyone. She started testing that night. One by one, we went into the medical bay, gave blood samples, and waited. The tension was unbearable. Each person who came out of the medical bay, we studied their face, trying to read whether they'd gotten good news or bad. Dr. Morrison tested herself first. Negative. Then Victor. Negative. Then Victoria. Negative. Then Natalie. Positive. Victor's daughter was infected. She didn't have symptoms yet, but the virus was in her bloodstream. The room went silent. Victoria started crying. Victor just stood there, frozen. Natalie looked confused. What does this mean? Am I going to turn into one of those things? Dr. Morrison's voice was gentle but honest. I don't know. You're infected, but you're not showing symptoms yet. You might never show symptoms. Some people might be resistant or immune. Or you might develop symptoms in the coming days or weeks. I don't know. I'm sorry. Victor made a decision. Natalie will be quarantined. We can't risk exposure to the others. Dad, no. I feel fine. I'm not sick. You're infected. You have to be quarantined. I'm sorry. They set up a separate room for her, isolated from the rest of the facility. She could communicate with us through intercom but couldn't have physical contact. Dr. Morrison continued testing. Marcus was positive. So was Carlos, one of the engineers, and Jennifer, and Christopher. 6 people total, all infected but not symptomatic. The rest of us were negative. We'd somehow avoided infection, at least so far. But 6 people in our community of 14 were infected. Nearly half. Victor made another decision. Everyone who's infected goes into quarantine, separate quarters, no physical contact with the uninfected. We provide food and supplies, but we minimize exposure. The infected protested. They felt fine. They weren't sick. Why should they be imprisoned? But the rest of us were terrified. If they turned, if they became like Thomas, they could kill us all. So we separated. The facility was divided. 8 uninfected people living in one section. 6 infected but asymptomatic people living in another section. Dr. Morrison moved between both areas, monitoring everyone, trying to understand the virus. Days passed, then weeks. The infected people remained asymptomatic. They felt fine. No fever, no cloudiness in the eyes, no aggression. Maybe they were immune. Maybe they'd fight off the infection. We started to hope. Then Christopher got a fever. He tried to hide it, but Natalie noticed and told Dr. Morrison. Within 6 hours, Christopher was fully symptomatic. Clouded eyes, aggression, trying to attack the others in quarantine. Dr. Morrison sedated him and moved him to a separate cell in the medical bay next to Thomas. Now we had 2 infected people who had fully turned, and 5 infected people who hadn't turned yet but might at any time. Victor was deteriorating mentally. His son was a zombie. His daughter was infected. His family was falling apart. Victoria had stopped eating. She just sat in their quarters, staring at the wall. The facility's morale was collapsing. People were scared, paranoid, depressed. About 10 months in, we had our first suicide. James Okoye, one of the engineers, hung himself in his quarters. We found him in the morning. He'd left a note. I can't live like this anymore. Trapped underground, waiting to die. I'm choosing my own end. It was devastating. We held a small service for him. Victor said some words about how James was a good man, how he'd contributed to our survival, how we'd honor his memory. But the truth was, we all understood why he'd done it. The psychological weight of our situation was crushing. 2 weeks later, another suicide. Dr. Tanaka overdosed on medications from the medical bay. She'd been one of the infected group, living in quarantine, and she'd decided she didn't want to wait to turn. She wanted to die as herself. That was 2 deaths from suicide in less than a month. Victor called another meeting. I know this is hard. I know we're all struggling, but we have to hold on. We have to believe we can survive this. If we give up now, James and Yuki died for nothing. Their sacrifice has to mean something. But his words rang hollow. Even he looked like he'd given up. His eyes were empty. His wife was catatonic. His son was a zombie. His daughter was infected. What did he have left to fight for? 11 months in, Natalie developed symptoms. Fever first, then cloudiness in the eyes, then aggression. Victor had to watch as his daughter turned into a monster. She was moved to the medical bay and sedated, joining Thomas and Christopher. 3 infected people, fully turned, being kept alive by sedation. For what? There was no cure. They weren't coming back. They were just corpses that wouldn't stay dead. Dr. Morrison approached Victor privately, but I heard the conversation through the facility's ventilation system. Sound carried in weird ways. Victor, we need to talk about the ethical implications of what we're doing. Thomas, Christopher, Natalie, they're gone. Keeping them sedated is using resources we need for the living. We should let them go. You want me to kill my children? Victor's voice was broken. They're already dead, Victor. What we're keeping alive isn't them. It's the virus wearing their bodies. I'm sorry, I truly am. But we have to think about the survivors, about the people who still have a chance. Get out. Get out of my sight. Dr. Morrison left, but she'd planted the seed. Victor knew she was right. 3 days later, he did it himself. He went into the medical bay, locked the door, and terminated the sedation for all 3 infected. Then he sat there and watched as they woke up, as they thrashed against their restraints, as they tried to reach him and feed on him. He sat there for hours, watching what his son and daughter had become. Then he unlocked the door and walked out. He sealed the medical bay remotely. The infected would eventually die of dehydration, trapped in there. It was cruel, but what choice did we have? Victor changed after that. He became distant, cold. He stopped coming to meals. He stopped participating in community activities. He just sat in his quarters, staring at nothing. Victoria was the same. They'd both mentally checked out. Marcus, Jennifer, and Carlos were still alive in the quarantine area, still asymptomatic after 11 months. Maybe they really were immune. We started to hope again. Maybe they'd survive. Maybe we'd learn something from them that could help others. Then, 12 months in, Carlos spiked a fever. He turned within 24 hours, then Marcus, then Jennifer. Within a week, all 3 of them had turned. Dr. Morrison euthanized them. She didn't even ask permission. She just did it. They were the last of the infected group. Now there were only 8 of us left. Victor, Victoria, Margaret, Dr. Morrison, Robert, Andre, Dr. Preston, and me. 13 months in, Robert killed Andre. We never found out why. Andre was in the kitchen preparing dinner. Robert walked in with a knife and stabbed him repeatedly. Just attacked him without warning. We heard Andre's screams and ran to the kitchen, found Robert standing over Andre's body covered in blood, holding the knife. He was hoarding food, Robert said calmly. I saw him. He was taking extra portions and hiding them in his quarters. That's theft. That's taking from the community. He had to be punished. It was insane. Andre hadn't been hoarding food. Robert had just snapped. The isolation, the stress, the horror of everything we'd been through, it had broken him. Victor locked Robert in one of the storage rooms while we figured out what to do. Dr. Morrison examined Andre, but he was dead. Robert had killed him. We held a trial of sorts, all 7 of us remaining. Victor, Victoria, Margaret, Dr. Morrison, Dr. Preston, me, and Robert on video feed from the storage room. Robert, you murdered Andre. You took a life without justification. What do you have to say for yourself? Victor's voice was emotionless, mechanical. He was stealing from us. He deserved to die. He wasn't stealing. We checked his quarters. There was no hidden food. Then he was planning to steal. I saw it in his eyes. He was a threat. Robert was clearly unhinged. The question was what to do with him. We couldn't let him out. He was dangerous, but we couldn't keep him locked up forever. We didn't have the resources to maintain a prison, and we couldn't send him outside. That would be a death sentence, and despite what he'd done, some of us weren't comfortable with execution. We debated for hours. Finally, Victor made a decision. Robert will remain in the storage room. We'll provide him with food and water, but he will not be released. He'll stay there until whatever happens next. It was a compromise. Robert would live, but isolated. It was a kind of prison. We soundproofed the storage room so we wouldn't hear him. We passed food through a small slot in the door. We tried to move on, but Andre was dead. Robert was imprisoned. We were down to 7 people. 7 out of the original 14. Half our community was gone in just over a year. The psychological weight was crushing. Dr. Preston stopped talking. He just went through his duties mechanically, then returned to his quarters. He was alive but not living. Margaret tried to maintain structure and routine, but even she was showing cracks. Victoria never left her quarters anymore. We brought her meals, but she barely ate. She was wasting away. 14 months in, everything collapsed completely. It started with Victor. He called me to the control room. When I arrived, he was sitting at the main console, staring at the monitors. Elijah, I need to tell you something. I've been monitoring the external sensors. The infected have been dying off. Their numbers are decreasing. I think they're finally starving to death. In another few months, it might be safe to go outside. That should have been good news, but something about his tone was off. That's great, Victor. Why do you sound so grim? He turned to look at me. His eyes were empty. Because I don't care anymore. My family is dead or broken. Most of the people I brought here are dead. And for what? To survive in a dead world? What's the point? The point is to rebuild. To start over. Rebuild what? Civilization is gone. Everyone we knew is dead. We're just a handful of traumatized people hiding underground. That's not a future. That's just prolonging the inevitable. Victor, you need to talk to Dr. Morrison. You're depressed. That's understandable given everything we've been through. But you can't give up now. He smiled. It was a sad, broken smile. I'm not giving up, Elijah. I'm just tired. So tired. Then he pulled out a gun. I don't know where he'd gotten it. Thomas must have had it stored somewhere in his security office. Victor, don't... He put the gun to his head and pulled the trigger. I dove forward, but I was too slow. Victor Harrington, billionaire, genius, the man who'd saved my life and the lives of 13 others, was dead. His blood and brains spattered across the monitors. I stood there in shock, unable to process what had just happened. I don't remember the next few hours clearly. I know I called for help. I know Dr. Morrison came and confirmed Victor was dead. I know he told the others. I know Victoria, when she was told her husband was dead, just nodded. She didn't cry. She didn't react. She just nodded and went back to staring at the wall. We moved Victor's body to cold storage. We didn't have a way to bury him. We couldn't take him outside. So we just stored him in one of the freezers in the kitchen. It felt wrong, but what else could we do? That night, Victoria overdosed on sleeping pills. Dr. Morrison found her in the morning. She'd taken the entire bottle. She just wanted to be with her family. She wanted the pain to stop. We stored her body next to Victor's. Now we were down to 5. Margaret, Dr. Morrison, Dr. Preston, Robert in the storage room, and me. 5 out of 14. Margaret tried to hold things together, but even she was breaking. We need to maintain routine, she said at breakfast. But there were only 3 of us at the table. Dr. Preston had stopped coming to meals. Robert was locked away. Half the chairs were empty. What routine was there left to maintain? A week later, Dr. Preston hanged himself, just like James had. We found him in his quarters. Another body for cold storage. Another person who couldn't handle the weight of survival. 4 left. Margaret, Dr. Morrison, Robert, and me. Then about 2 weeks ago, Margaret disappeared. I noticed she wasn't at breakfast. I went to her quarters. The door was open. Her room was empty. Her belongings were gone. I checked the control room. One of the emergency exits had been opened during the night. She'd left. She'd taken supplies and just walked out into the world. I don't know if she's alive. I don't know if she found other survivors or if the infected got her or if she's just wandering alone out there. I sealed the exit behind her and tried to understand why she'd go. Maybe she couldn't handle being underground anymore. Maybe she'd rather die in sunlight than live in artificial light. Maybe she just wanted to see if there was anything left of the world. I don't know. But she was gone. 3 left. Dr. Morrison, Robert, and me. Then, last week, Dr. Morrison came to me with a confession. Elijah, I need to tell you something. I've been running tests on myself. I'm infected. I have been for months. I'm asymptomatic like Marcus and the others were at first. I don't know when I'll turn, but it will happen eventually. Days, weeks, maybe months. But it will happen.
Why didn't you tell anyone? Because I'm the only medical person we have. If I'd gone into quarantine, who would have taken care of everyone else? I had to keep working, had to keep helping. But now there's almost no one left. And I'm tired, Elijah. I'm so tired of fighting. I'm going to end this on my own terms. Rachel, don't. She put a hand on my arm. It's okay. I've made my peace with it. I wanted to tell you so you'd understand. I'm going to go to the medical bay. I'm going to take something that will put me to sleep. I won't wake up. I won't turn into one of those things. And you won't have to watch me die. She hugged me. Then she walked to the medical bay and locked the door. I heard the hiss of the pneumatic seal. That was 2 days ago. I haven't been able to bring myself to open the medical bay and check. I know she's dead. I can see on the monitors that there's no movement in there, but I can't face seeing her body.
So now it's just me and Robert. Robert, who murdered Andre. Robert, who's been locked in a storage room for 2 months. I've been bringing him food and water through the slot in the door, but he doesn't talk. He doesn't make any sound. I don't even know if he's still sane. And me. Elijah Winters, 32 years old. The last sane person in this bunker. Maybe the last person alive. I've been checking the external sensors. Margaret was right to leave. The infected are mostly gone. I'm seeing maybe a dozen on the cameras, and they're all in the final stages of starvation. Emaciated, barely mobile. Within another month or two, they'll all be dead. And then what? Do I leave this bunker? Do I go out into a dead world and try to find other survivors? Or do I stay here, in safety, with food and water and power for another decade? I've been broadcasting this on multiple frequencies for 3 days now, repeating my story over and over, hoping someone will hear it, hoping someone will respond, hoping I'm not alone, but I haven't heard anything. No response, no sign of life, just static. I'm going to keep trying. What else can I do? The alternative is to accept that I'm the last one, that humanity died except for me. And I can't accept that. I refuse to accept that. There have to be others. Other bunkers, other survivors, other people who made it through. I'm going to find them, or I'm going to die trying. Because I can't stay here. I can't live in this tomb with the bodies of everyone I knew. I can't live with the memories of how they all died. I need to get out. I need to see the sun again, even if it's shining on a dead world. I've been preparing, packing supplies, planning my route. I'm going to leave tomorrow morning. I'm going to take one of the vehicles, assuming it still works after sitting for 14 months. I'm going to drive until I find something. Other people, another bunker, another community, anything. And if I don't find anything, if the world really is dead, then at least I'll die trying. At least I'll die in the open air instead of underground. I'm going to leave this broadcast equipment running, playing my story on loop. If anyone comes here, they'll hear it. They'll know what happened. They'll know that 14 people tried to survive in this bunker and only one made it. They'll know that survival isn't just about having resources and security. It's about maintaining hope and purpose and human connection. Without those things, you're already dead. You're just going through the motions until your body catches up to your mind. I want to talk about Robert for a minute, because I'm going to have to make a decision about him. Do I leave him here? Do I take him with me? Do I end his suffering? I don't know what the right answer is. He's a murderer. He killed Andre, but he's also a human being who's been driven insane by circumstances beyond his control. Do I have the right to decide whether he lives or dies? I don't know. I think I'm going to leave the storage room unlocked when I go. Leave him food and water and the option to leave if he wants. Give him the choice. That feels like the right thing to do. Let him decide his own fate. Maybe he'll stay in there. Maybe he'll leave. Maybe he'll die. But it will be his choice, not mine. I've been thinking a lot about Victor Harrington over the past few weeks. The man who built this place. The man who saved my life. The man who watched his family die and then chose to die himself rather than live without them. I understand him now in a way I didn't before. He wasn't weak for killing himself. He was just human. He'd reached his limit. Everyone has a limit. That point where the pain becomes too much, where survival stops being worth the effort. Some people reach that limit sooner than others. Victor reached it after watching his children turn into monsters. Victoria reached it after losing her husband. Dr. Preston reached it after losing his purpose. Dr. Morrison reached it after months of fighting a losing battle against the virus. Margaret might have reached it, or she might have just decided she'd rather face the world than hide from it. I don't know. But I understand all of them. I understand why they chose what they chose. The question I keep asking myself is, have I reached my limit? Am I leaving this bunker because I still have hope, or because I've given up? I think it's hope. I think I still believe there's something worth finding out there. Other survivors, a future, a reason to keep going. But I'm not sure. I've been alone for too long. My thoughts are getting circular. I'm talking to myself more. Recording these broadcasts helps. Gives me someone to talk to, even if that someone is hypothetical. But I know I'm slipping. I know the isolation is affecting me. That's another reason I need to leave. If I stay here much longer, I'll end up like the others. I'll end up in cold storage or hanging from the ceiling. I need human contact. I need to see another face, hear another voice, even if it's just for a moment before the infected get me. I've been watching the camera feeds obsessively, studying the infected, watching them slowly die. It's fascinating in a horrible way. They're not eating. There's nothing left for them to eat. All the wildlife is gone, hunted to extinction by the infected. All the humans are dead or hidden away in bunkers like this. So the infected are starving. And as they starve, they slow down. They become less aggressive. They just wander aimlessly, searching for food that doesn't exist. Some of them have collapsed and stopped moving. Are they dead? Or just dormant, waiting for prey to appear? I don't know, but I need to be careful when I leave. Even a single infected could kill me if I'm not prepared. I've been practicing with the weapons we have here. Thomas's weapons. Guns, knives, even a crossbow. I'm not a soldier. I'm a computer nerd who's never been in a fight. But I'm going to have to fight if I want to survive out there. I keep thinking about the world before. 14 months ago, I had an apartment. I had a job. I had a normal life. I could go to a coffee shop and order a latte. I could go to a movie theater and watch a film. I could drive to a store and buy whatever I wanted. All of that is gone. All of it. The infrastructure that supported modern life has collapsed. No power grid, no internet, no supply chains, no government, no society. Just scattered survivors trying to stay alive in the ruins. And infected corpses wandering through empty cities. It feels impossible that it happened so fast. 14 months from normal civilization to complete collapse. But that's how it works. Systems are more fragile than we think. When they start to fail, they fail catastrophically. There's no gradual decline. There's just collapse. I wonder what the world will look like in 100 years. Assuming anyone survives. Assuming humanity doesn't go extinct. Will we rebuild? Will we create a new civilization? Or will we regress to pre-industrial society, small communities surviving by farming and hunting? I think it will be the latter. We don't have the resources or the knowledge to rebuild modern civilization. The factories that made computers and cars and phones, those are gone. The mines that provided raw materials, those are flooded or collapsed. The refineries that processed oil, those are offline. Even if we wanted to rebuild, we couldn't. We've lost too much. We'll have to start over from scratch. Build small communities, grow food, make tools by hand, live like people did 1,000 years ago. Maybe that's not a bad thing. Maybe modern civilization was unsustainable. Maybe this collapse was inevitable, and we're better off starting over simpler. I'm rambling. I know I'm rambling. That's what happens when you're alone for too long. Your thoughts get scattered. You lose focus. I need to wrap this up. I need to finish this broadcast and prepare to leave. So, let me summarize everything I've told you. 14 months ago, a zombie virus spread across the world. I was lucky enough to be invited to a Billionaires bunker designed for long-term survival. 14 of us made it to the bunker. We thought we were safe. We thought we'd survive. But the virus found its way in. Some of us got infected. Some of us went insane. Some of us killed themselves. One of us killed someone else. One of us left. And now there's just me, Elijah Winters, the last one standing. Tomorrow morning I'm leaving this bunker. I'm going into the world to find other survivors. I'm either going to find hope, or I'm going to die trying. If you're hearing this broadcast, please respond. Please let me know there's someone out there. Use any radio frequency you can. I'll be monitoring as I travel. If I don't hear from anyone, I'll keep broadcasting my location. Maybe we can find each other. Maybe we can survive together. Because I've learned something important over these 14 months. Survival isn't just about resources. It's not just about having food and water and shelter. It's about connection, about community, about having people around you who make life worth living. Without that, you're just existing. You're not living. And I want to live. I want to rebuild. I want to see what comes next for humanity. So I'm taking that chance. I'm leaving safety and going into the unknown. It's terrifying, but it's also the only choice that makes sense. Before I go, I want to say something to the people who didn't make it. To Thomas, who got infected trying to keep us safe. To Christopher and Natalie, who were just kids and didn't deserve what happened to them. To James and Yuki, who chose to end their pain. To Andre, who was murdered for no reason. To Robert, who lost his mind. To Victor and Victoria, who couldn't live without their family. To Dr. Preston, who gave up. To Dr. Morrison, who fought until she couldn't fight anymore. To Margaret, who chose the world over the bunker. You all deserve better. You all deserve to survive. And I promise, if I make it, if I find others and we rebuild, I'll tell your stories. I'll make sure you're remembered. You won't be forgotten. And to whoever is listening, if anyone is listening, don't give up. Don't let the darkness win. Humanity survived ice ages and plagues and wars and disasters. We're resilient. We endure. This zombie apocalypse is just another challenge. A big one. Maybe the biggest. But we can survive it. We can rebuild. We can create something better than what we had before. We just have to keep going. Keep fighting. Keep hoping. That's all I have. That's my message. Keep hoping. I'm signing off now. I'm going to pack my supplies and get some sleep. Tomorrow morning I'm leaving. If you hear this broadcast and you're near the Cascade Mountains in Oregon, head toward these coordinates. I'll leave the bunker unsealed. There's food, water, power, everything you need. Use it if you need it. But I won't be here. I'll be out there, looking for you, looking for anyone, hoping I'm not alone. This is Elijah Winters, survivor, signing off. Good luck to all of you out there. And please, please respond if you can hear me.